Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time.
Let's jump into a Guilds of Ravnica sealed. Crack some packs. Alright, open some reasonable rares, some not so much. Mausoleum Secrets, Narcomoeba, basically unplayable. But then Emara, Connive Concoct, Quasi-Duplicate, and Experimental Frenzy are all pretty good. So let's take a look here. We're gonna go color by color. So white, what stands out? We've got a Healer's Hawk, Sunhome Stalwarts, quite good. Double Luminous Bonds as removal. And then a Patrol. So got some okay cards, but overall white's not too deep. In blue, we have Disdainful Strokes, pretty good and sealed, since people tend to play all their bombs, which are usually pretty expensive. Got, of course, our Quasi-Duplicates, Capture Spheres removal, Cover Up as another counterspell. And that's it. In black, we don't have all that much. Black looks pretty bad, looking at just single black cards. And then in red, we have a Direct Current, we've got our Frenzy, Bodyguard, very good in an aggro deck. Command Storm ×2 as removal. And that's about it. So red looks okay. And then in green, we don't have much at all. Prey Upon is kind of mediocre removal at best. Double Beetle's okay. And yeah, nothing too exciting. We do have a Root if we want to go crazy with our colors to help us maybe splash. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's take a look at our multicolor cards, which usually give us more direction since those are the most powerful cards. In Dimir, I've got a Guildmage, Agent, Artful Takedown, Connive Concoct, so Dimir's looking good, although not too deep. In Izzet, we have Invert Invent, Electromancer ×2, and a Dragonaut, so not too many Izzet cards. In Golgari, we have Guildmage, Double Trooper, Lurcher, and Molderhulk, so again, not the deepest color. In Boros, we have just a Justice Strike and a Legionnaire, which are both good, but not too deep. And in Selesnya, we've got Emara, Shieldmate, Witchshaper, Colossus. So our pool is kind of a bit all over the place. We don't have any super clear indication of which colors we should play. No insane bombs, but we'll try and make it work. So blue looked pretty promising. We can combine blue with black and maybe red, some sort of Grixis deck, which would give us access to Connive Concoct as well as maybe Experimental Frenzy. That could be a good place to start. Since green wasn't too exciting, or green guilds, we miss out on Emara. That's not the end of the world. And then Boros was okay with Legionnaire, Justice Strike, some of the aggressive red and white cards, but I don't think we have enough red and white aggro cards to build a deck. So we're probably going to end up in some sort of Grixis mid-rangey deck from the looks of it. So let's start adding some cards to our deck here. I don't think we have enough Surveil synergies or creature to justify the Dazzling Lights. Disappearance is usually okay, Adapt is fine. I don't think we're aggressive enough to want the Mesmerist, but we'll see. Duplicate, Capture Sphere, Double Cover Up, Muse Drake is fine. And then in black, maybe Whispering Snitch makes it. Veiled Shade is playable if we need it. Bartizan Bats, like even Never Happened could be okay and sealed. I don't think we have enough fodder for the Necrolisk, plays well with the Muse Drakes, but that's about it. And then in red we have Direct Current, Double Command Storm as removal, Frenzy. Frenzy doesn't play all that well with our counterspells, so that's something to keep in mind as well. So yeah, red looks more like a splash color in this deck. So we might not play the Direct Currents, but we can splash Frenzy, Double Command Storm pretty easily. And then we might play the Locket, Whisper Agent plays well with our counterspells, Connive Concoct. We've got double Izzet Guildgate for mana fixing. And then Invert Invent we might splash as well. Electromancer, not the most exciting splash card. So we don't have any Dimir Guildgates, sadly. Don't think we are too interested in splashing this Dragonauts and Electromancer, but Invert Invent I could see, since Invert Invent can grab a powerful sorcery like Connive Concoct, and there's plenty of instant speed removal spells between the Artful Takedown and Commander Storm that we can go fetch. So I don't hate Invent. But I don't think we're interested in Electromancer and Dragonauts. And then Gateway Plaza could also be mana fixing if we want it. Although we'll see whether or not that's necessary. We don't have any gate synergies or payoffs that we have to worry about. Could always play some of these 2-drops. Snitch, Child of Night, Mesmerist if we need them. Could always play Never Happened. Could always play Vapors if we want to hedge against the aggro decks. So let's take a look at our curve here. So yeah, we're probably not going to play the Direct Current, sadly, because double red's kind of tough on the mana. I think I will play the Frenzy on the splash, even though it doesn't play well with our counterspells, just as a way to kind of cycle through our deck very quickly, and then we can always sacrifice it if we're nearing the point where we're decking ourselves. Our deck is kind of light on win conditions. We have some flyers, Partisan Bats and Muse Drake that can maybe get across the line. Veiled Shade in the late game can maybe win the game. But mostly we're trying to either steal an opposing creature, but it's only a small one, so Connive is unlikely to steal something too impressive. Just try and kill all the opponent's stuff with our card advantage, and then eventually win the game that way. We have double Devious Cover-Up to prevent decking as another way of winning the game, and then just deck the opponent. So that's probably the most realistic way. Maybe Quasi-Duplicate, copying a bunch of our flyers can get the job done as well. But I think Devious Cover-Up ×2 is probably our most realistic win condition, which we have to keep in mind not only while building the deck, but also while playing the games. We're pretty much set on this Grixis deck. We need to make 2 additions. We can make those pretty easily. But yeah, for now, let's take a look at maybe some other alternatives. So let's take a look at maybe an aggressive deck here. See if we can make that work. Color the Culprit. In draft it's pretty bad, and sealed it might be a bit better. Don't really want Ledev Guardian, although if we go Selesnya it has a bit of synergy with Emara. So we'll see. Don't think I want Demotion. So if we were to build a Boros aggro deck, we of course get access to Frenzy, Bodyguard, Direct Current, which are all decent. So that could be one approach. And then of course we get the Justice Strike and Legionnaire. Or we could go green-white with Selesnya, where we get Emara. And some of the green 2-drops like Iron Shell Beetle, which are decent. Overall, maybe Boros looks better, mostly because of Experimental Frenzy and Bodyguard. Maniacal Rage, we can always play Locksmith just to have a 2-drop. Double Commander Storm, and then Justice Strike and Legionnaire. So we're maybe 1 or 2 cards short depending on how many lands we want to play. Don't really want to play Boros Locket usually. Ledev Guardian also looks pretty bad in our Boros aggro deck since we don't have Emara. So we're a couple of cards short. Could of course always try and splash a green. We have double Selesnya Guildgate, but Emara is not a card we want to splash. I guess Shieldmate we can play no matter what. Could make a case for splashing like a World Soul Colossus off of double Guildgate and Plaza, but the more gates we add to our deck, the more we slow down our deck as well, which is usually not where we want to be as the aggro deck. Yeah, this deck might want 17 lands anyway, since our curve's kinda high. Could always play a Demotion or a Ledev Guardian, or a Maximize Velocity. Of course we've got a Boros Guildgate. I mean, this Boros deck doesn't look bad. We have more playables than I thought. Some okay removal. A little bit light on creatures perhaps. But the Frenzy looks a lot better here than in the Grixis deck. Of course, if we were playing best of 3, we would have the luxury of being able to sideboard into the Boros deck, or from the Boros deck into the Grixis control deck, and that might catch some people off guard. So if we were playing best of 3, then the seal pool would get a lot better. In a best of 1 situation, then that doesn't matter a whole lot since we just want to submit our best deck. But definitely something to keep in mind if you were playing in a best of 3 situation. I've definitely done that before where you're playing sealed and you just sideboard into a completely different deck after sideboard. And now your opponent sideboarded incorrectly for the matchup. So I'm actually liking this Boros deck a little bit more than the Grixis deck, mostly because our Grixis deck is lacking some win conditions. I think 17 lands is probably okay, our curve is kind of high, so I don't think we quite want to go to 16, especially considering that our extra card we would play isn't even that good anyway. So we've got a few options here. We've got Demotion, Ladef Guardian, Velocity, I guess Torch Courier, Book Devourer, Street Riot, and I guess Boros Locket, and Silent Dart. I don't think I'm into splashing the Colossus. Any blue we would want to splash? Yeah, I mean there's some okay blue cards, but the best ones are double blue, Quasi-Duplicate is double blue. And again, if we want to splash blue, we need to add a bunch of gates to our deck and that slows the deck down. Electromancer isn't great here, and Dragonauts also doesn't have a ton of instants and sorceries. So kind of the best blue cards we don't maximize. So I don't think splashing blue helps us much. Yeah, maybe just Ladef Guardian is fine, just to hold the ground. It's not an exciting card, but it's just a curve filler, basically. Alright, I think we'll try this. And then our mana base, probably favoring white slightly. Got a lot more cheap white cards, although we do need double red for Direct Current. I think I'll still go +1 Plains over Mountain. We're still playing 17 lands. Alright, let's see how many gems we end up losing here. Alright, we've got a curve, Hawk into Locksmith, and then hope to draw well from there. If we get bored with a Boros deck, we can always switch to Grixis, but we'll see how Boros fares here. Ooh. Is it time for some Angry Birds, perhaps? Opponent could have a bounce spell here, so I don't love going for the Maniacal Rage. I'll just play a Locksmith for now, I think. Alright, it was a radical idea instead, that's fine. We can either rage the Locksmith to get past the blocker or the Hawk, or even the opponent's creature to prevent it from blocking, but that's usually a last resort. Opponent says go. Yeah, I think we'll rage the bird here. And if they bounce it, we can replay it, keeping up white mana. And hope they don't kill it here. Jumpstart radical idea discarding Guildmage, so if they are missing black mana, hopefully we can punish them. Still no black. Wishcoin Crab, alright. Our good friend makes an appearance, so the Hawk can keep attacking. Crab does not have defenders, so the Locksmith doesn't do much here. And the Sergeant also lines up pretty badly. Patrol's decent. We could of course still play the Sergeant, attack with everyone, Mantron to the Hawk. They block Sergeant, and if they don't have anything, they take 6. And we grow the Hawk. They might counter the Sergeant if they have a counterspell just to be able to use their mana. And then we could just attack with the Hawk and keep the Sergeant back. Or we could play Patrol, and if they have a counterspell, then hopefully the Hawk still gets there. I think I'm leaning towards just attacking with the Hawk for now, and then playing Patrol. And hope that we get there. Alright, no counterspell. So next turn Sergeant could be lethal. Wall of Mist. Presumably what they drew for the turn. Opponent says go. So what happens if we play a hasty Barging Sergeant? The Locksmith does prevent the wall from blocking, so that's important. So if we were to attack with everyone, they don't have anything. We hit them for 6 in the air, and then 2 on the ground with a Locksmith, so they would be dead. I think we go for it. Like, even if this doesn't work out, hopefully the Flyers can finish them off next turn. And then we probably want to mentor onto the Patrol instead of the Hawk to kind of diversify a little bit. And then the Patrol can maybe mentor onto Locksmith in the future. Alright, they appear to have something. Oh, never mind. Alright. Well, pretty uninspiring draw, but still got there. Yeah, this seems keepable. It's unexciting, but we get to curve Locksmith into Guardian. Got some removal. Alright, let's lead with the planes. Looks like we're playing the mirror. Swiftblade Vindicator is definitely a scary one. Probably gonna have to use Luminous Bonds on that pretty soon. Don't know if we'll play the Guardian first though. Chromatic Lantern into a Healer's Hawk. So I guess for now we'll just play Guardian. Hopefully they put some enchantment on the Vindicator and then we get more value out of the Luminous Bonds. If they have a combat trick, that's kind of the worst case scenario here. Alright, looks like Guardian successfully holding back the Vindicator, but now a Blade Instructor as well means that they can mentor onto the Vindicator and still trade with the Ladef Guardian. And of course Instructor mentoring on the Hawk is also going to be pretty annoying, but the Patrol gives us a good blocker there. So what happens if we play Patrol and just say go? And let's say our opponent attacks with everyone, mentors onto Vindicator, Guardian goes in front of Vindicator, Locksmith in front of Blade Instructor, and we've got a good block on the Hawk. And if they use a combat trick, they can blow up one of those blocking situations, not sure which one. I think that's okay for now. Like, the alternative is Luminous Bonds, but it's unclear which creature is more threatening here. So let's just play Patrol, say go. It's gonna take a lot for us to be able to color the culprit anything, given all the 1 toughness creatures they presented so far. So this seems fine. A Righteous Blow, alright. So with first strike they get to kill the Ladef Guardian. And now we're probably just gonna Luminous Bonds the Vindicator. Patrol is holding off the Healer's Hawk, and the Rock Charger is holding off Patrol, so we kind of have a board stall. If we don't Luminous Bonds the Vindicator, then they can start attacking with it. We could trade for the Patrol, but then the Hawk and the Charger are unlocked, and given our lack of interaction for the flying creatures, I don't think we want to lose Patrol. So it's not looking great. I think I'll bluff attack with the Patrol here, hoping they just take 2. We could have also waited not to cast a Luminous Bonds in the hopes of finding a creature that can trade for the Vindicator, but we don't have many of those. And we do have a decent amount of removal left in our deck. So I think I'm blocking. They had 1 mana up when we attacked. They could have more mana up now, so if they have like a Sure Strike they could cast it. But they didn't cast Sure Strike when the Blade Instructor dies, so they would have had to draw it in the meantime. Alright, Dark Current, it's too bad. Makes sense too. Alright, that's rough. Drew a few too many lands. Definitely want to keep playing out the lands in case we hit an Experimental Frenzy. We need all the lands we have. And yeah, color the culprit. The reason why you don't played in draft as much is because the Boros deck is so popular and it usually doesn't do much there in that matchup. In sealed you usually encounter more high toughness creatures, but yeah, it just didn't work out this game. So still gonna keep maybe one land in hand if we were to draw our own direct current so we can jumpstart it. But otherwise we want to keep playing out our lands. So now we're gonna take 4 plus 2 from direct current, so we're at essentially 1 life. I don't think we can draw our way out of this now. Hey Tenoshi MTG, welcome to the ranks of the Loyal Legion once again. Thank you for the 3 months and your continued support. Yeah, Bodyguard doesn't do much by himself. Alright, GG's. Even if our opponent were to somehow put an enchantment on their creature and we can color the culprit, we're still dead. Alright, well, not much we can do there. Alright, what about this one? It's not amazing. If we draw a red source, it's okay. No 2-drop on the draw. But we have 2 removal spells and a Blade Instructor. Alright, if we draw red mana now, our hand's a little bit more exciting. Up against Dimir, Burglar Rats. Alright, so against Dimir, Color the Culprit could be good. If they play like a Wishcoin Crab or Watcher in the Mists, we can kill it. So I'm tempted to keep the Color. Blade Instructor lines up pretty awkwardly against Burglar Rats, so I could just see discarding that. Although that does get rid of our only proactive turn 3 play. Centipede, we probably just want to Luminous Bonds here. Don't want to start taking too much damage. And next turn we can play Patrol. Hopefully find red mana soon. If we can Mentor with the Sergeant onto the Patrol, we're in business. Because then we can also Mentor onto Legionnaire pretty easily. Enhanced Surveillance, alright. Opponents discovering. They could have cast Dispersal, decided to just discover instead. So they also get to dig pretty deep thanks to the Surveillance. A Mountain of the Top would be pretty great here. Dimir Guildgate and Cyclops in the graveyard. Maniacal Rage instead. Alright, let's attack, I guess. Could keep the land in hand to play around discard. I guess we might want to like Color the Culprit plus Maniacal Rage next turn, and then we need the land in play. So I think I'll still play it. But there's definitely an argument for keeping lands in hand against Burglar Rats or Disinformation campaigns. Narcomoeba. It's not too impressive. Alright. The problem now, of course, is that they can double block the Barging Sergeant with Narcomoeba and Burglar Rat. We would still get to Mentor onto the Patrol, which is nice. Or we could just play Legionnaire, attack with our 2 flyers, and then take it from there. Opponent could also be holding a Disdainful Stroke, which makes playing Legionnaire better. Yeah, I think I'm tempted to play Legionnaire. If they have a Sinister Sabotage, it doesn't really matter. Alright. We could also opt to play the Sergeant, not attack, and then put a Maniacal Rage on it the turn after. But of course, if our opponent then has removal, we don't get any value. So it's a tricky spot. Mustrake, so they have a blocker for the Patrol. So now mentoring onto it with the Sergeant is extra appealing, since that also unlocks the Patrol to attack. Alternatively, we could Maniacal Rage on the Patrol and play Lodev Guardian, and then next turn Sergeant. Don't know if that's better. It is going all in on this patrol, but I guess Sergeant Mentor onto patrol is also kind of going all in to an extent. Yeah, let's Sergeant. Opponent makes the blocks we expected. Yeah, they could have prevented Mentor had they cast Dazzling Lights before the Mentor trigger resolved. That's a very good point, and then Patrol would have still been a 2-powered creature, so I guess we should have kept that in mind as well. Enhanced Surveillance always keeps priority, so they might just not have anything. Alright, so I guess we're attacking. I don't think we quite want to put Maniacal Rage on the Patrol. Just play Guardian for now and take it from there. And now I'll keep the planes in hand. So our opponent's digging pretty deep with the Surveillance. Spybug now at 2-2. Can start hitting us. Eventually we can maybe collar it if it gets too big. So right now they would have a double block on Patrol. If we Maniacal Rage, that's no longer the case. I guess we could attack with both, so we can Mentor onto Guardian. Would become a 3-5. I guess that's reasonable too. Let's hope this works out. Double blocks Guardian. Works for me. So if they have a Dazzling Lights, it doesn't matter. Definitely prefer killing the bats. Trade works out. Play Instructor. And then pray that they can't answer Patrol. Still keep land in hand for Rat or Campaign. Opponent's gonna have to start chum blocking Patrol soon. Bodyguard's not bad. So if we attack with both, Mentor onto Instructor, they can trade Spybug for Instructor, chum block Patrol, we get to play Bodyguard. If they then answer Patrol, we're left with a Bodyguard and nothing else. So there's also the argument for not attacking with Blade Instructor, since we've got the Spybug covered if they surveil twice more, but I think attacking's probably fine. Alright, trade seems to be happening. And then we gotta hope they don't find removal for Patrol. Opponent decides to take 4. I think that's the preferred outcome, since now the Bodyguard is more likely to keep attacking. Alright, opponent's at 1. Informant. That's fine. Spybug 3-3, so it's actually funny if they surveil once more, they might just be dead. They saw most of their deck thanks to the surveillance, so maybe all the removal is at the bottom, or they just are pretty removal light. Wow. Deadly Visit, Nightfall Predator, all going into the graveyard. Opponent gives us the GG, but they're not dead yet. I guess if they have nothing, they're dead. We'll find out. Do get to Mentor a bunch. So how do we stack these? Doesn't matter. Patrol Mentors onto Instructor, Instructor Mentors onto Bodyguard. Don't think it matters. Did we get there? Now I feel awkward about giving my opponent a GG since some time has passed since they gave us a GG. But good games, opponent. Not an exciting hand once again, but don't think we can mulligan. We'll lead with Bodyguard, and then a hasty Legionnaire can enable it. Companions is fine. Seems worthwhile to pump the Legionnaire even though we get attacked by lifelink creatures potentially. They might use them to convoke anyway. What does it find? Hopefully no Luminous Bonds. Well, had to jinx ourselves. And they're leaving enough blockers back for the Bodyguard. But I think this Bodyguard is more value, given that they're likely Luminous Bondsing the Legionnaire. And then next turn Bodyguard can maybe mentor onto the Healer's Hawk. The Boar could also come in handy to help us pump the Bodyguard so we can mentor onto a bigger creature. Still have enough mana to convoke maybe a 4/4 Vigilant Rosemane Centaur, instead it's a Skyline Scout. Alright, so now what? If we were to attack with the Bodyguard, opponent can double block Woodshaper and a token to kill it. But we would get a mentor out of the deal. A Boar could pump the Healer's Hawk and get in there, and we can keep Bodyguard back. Getting rid of a bunch of creatures against the green-white deck can be nice, since sometimes they have some of those critical mass type cards, like Might of the Masses or Flower Flourish, so just getting rid of some creatures could be okay. So I think the play is just going to be Boar, Pump Hawk. We can attack with the Locksmith if we mentor onto it with the Bodyguard. So they can no longer trade for a lifelink token. Would have been nice to mentor onto the Hawk, since then we permanently get a 2/2 flyer. But this seems fine. And then I imagine we'll see Woodshaper and a token on the Bodyguard, and then they'll take 6. But now the ground is a little bit more cleared up. Alright, they're actually interesting. Chum blocking the Bodyguard, and they traded the Scouts. So it's an unusual play, but maybe they have something in hand to justify that. Siege Worm. That one we can answer in a multitude of ways. Just using Commander Storm is pretty mana efficient. That way if we draw another land, next turn we can go Companions plus Luminous Bonds. And also makes it so they can't use the Worm for Convoke. Whereas if we Luminous Bonds, they can still tap it for Convoke. So this seems totally fine. And then, do we want to attack with the Boar? Or do we keep it back to hold off the lifelinkers? We're still trading 3 damage for 2 lifelink damage, so it's not the worst if they attack us. And again, they're somewhat likely to use them for Convoke as well. So I think attacking with everyone's fine. So opponent's down to 1. And they've got a lot of things they have to deal with. And we still have a removal spell in hand, so it's looking good. They might have been better off just trading for the Bodyguard 2 turns ago. Candlelight Vigil. Fair enough. So they get to gain potentially 5 life here. Then we get to Luminous Bonds, the token. They're keeping the 1/1 back. And a Prey Upon. Wow, that was a good turn. since of course a fight from prey pawn means they also get to gain life from their life-linking soldier once again. So that set us back quite a bit. We did draw the land so we can double spell. But yeah, that was a good turn for them. Attack with both, play companions. And then hope we can get across the finish line here in time. Opponent still has a bunch of cards in hand, so they might take over the late game. So it's our job to try and win the game quickly. It's gonna be a Generous Tray as a potential blocker into Chromatic Lantern. Alright, it's not so bad. What happens if we attack with everyone next turn? Mentor to a 1/1. It's just Flower. So they did have a Flower Flourish. Maybe explains why they wanted to keep some of those life-linking tokens. So if we attack with everyone, they have a good block on a 1/1, but they're taking 8, gaining 1. So attack all seems fine. So they're not dead on board. But they go to 1 and they had to chump block twice. And I guess we'll play the land in case of Experimental Frenzy off the top. Then we might want the extra land in play. Alright, no settled rankages we need to play around. That was an interesting game. Alright, what about this hand? Seems fine. Shield made into Instructor. Hopefully draw a mountain at some point. Opponent's got an interesting deck here. Deadweight, Glaive, some gates. So not sure what to expect. Yeah, let's get in for 3 and then play Hawk into Guardian. Disappearance. Alright, I guess we'll play Instructor plus Hawk. Start mentoring as soon as we can. Alright, kills Blade Instructor, still get a Mentor out of the deal. And hopefully we can find a mountain soon. We have a bunch of removal, in case they play some blockers. Luminous Bond's a pretty good answer to the City Watch Sphinx here. Informants. Alright, don't love our spot if we miss on red mana for another couple turns here. Presumably our opponent has a pretty good late game with all those different colors. Darkblade Agent. Well, the one guild gate shows up. Let's send. At least we're gaining a bit of life with a Hawk, so it's not too bad. Hopefully they can't surveil here. That's a bummer. Probably taking the hit from the Darkblade Agent. Don't really want to chump block with Ledev Guardian in the spot. And then we can command a Storm to kill the Informant and get an attack in. Or we could play more passively. Could also play the boar pumping the Guardian so we can attack into the Informants. Boros Challenger and Darkblade Agent in the same deck. That's ambitious. Our opponent's having more success with their 4 colors than we are with our 2 colors. That's for sure. Could also just play Boar, pump the Hawk, and then try and just win in the air. That might be a good approach. And then at some point we can Maniacal Rage the Hawk, hope they can't answer it. If we command a Storm, it doesn't really open up any attacks here. And now we have some more blockers on the ground at least. So this Hawk needs a couple more turns to get there. So we could double block. Don't know if that's a great idea. I guess I'll just take it for now. Ooh, Thief of Sanity. That's definitely worth killing. They know about Commander Storms, so equipping the Thief seems a little weird. I guess they kind of force the issue now. But yeah, I'll happily command, attack with the Hawk, and then next turn Rage is lethal. Seems good to me. Despite missing our red mana for a while, Boros got the job done. So 4-1 already beat my wildest expectations for the deck, so it's all gravy from here basically. Now we've got the opposite problem of no white mana, but we do have mostly red cards, so I think we can keep this on the play. And then we've got 4 turns to, or well, 3 turns to draw planes. Alright, Hawk would have been a great play here, but we'll have to wait on it. Opponent on Grixis, and oh, Nightveil Sprite. Definitely a threatening card to play early. So Plains still lets us mentor with a bodyguard next turn, thanks to the hasty Legionnaire. We have more plains than mountains in our deck. Luminous Bonds is not gonna cut it. Alright, this is painful. Just gotta pass a turn without doing anything. Yeah, it might be 9 planes even, since we added one. So we're about 1 in 3 to draw white mana. Even if we just drew Mountain, we could maybe expect to play Sergeant or Commander Storm on 5, but missing a land drop altogether is not where we want to be. If we miss for another turn, I don't know that we can claw our way back into this. Unless our opponent's draw is non-functional, but with a Nightveil Sprite letting them surveil, it's very unlikely that their draw completely goes off the rails. Alright, opponent didn't add anything to the board, probably implies they've got some counter spells they're sitting on. So how do we want to play this? The straightforward play would be Legionnaire and Smash, although we are down to 11, so also have to play a little bit of defense. We could Justice Strike at instant speed, so that plays around a counterspell better. Although Justice Strike doesn't kill the sprite, and if we kill Centipede they get to put a counter on the sprite. So the play might just be a Legionnaire attack, see what they do, and then next turn we can use removal. It's definitely close. Yeah, if it's Disdainful Stroke, they can counter Legionnaire. But yeah, looks like Devious Cover-Up. Our opponent was hovering over their graveyard for a split second. That's usually a sign that it's a cover-up. So we're probably forced to Luminous Bonds the Centipede here, which is not a great play here, but it's probably necessary. Could also Justice Strike Centipede and then Luminous Bonds on the Nightveil Sprite. Has the upside of being able to be done at instant speed, so if our opponent does have another counterspell, we can make them spend their mana in their turn instead of in our turn. I think I'm leaning Justice Strike in their upkeep. Don't give them the chance to draw into a counterspell, but if they have one, they're forced to spend mana in their turn. Counter goes on sprites. Do they finally play another creature here? Kept most of the cards on top with the sprites, so their hand's presumably pretty good here. We don't know if they're splashing green for statue, or if they're just happy with the status half. Locksmith to draw, so we could go Locksmith plus Hawk. We can just Luminous Bonds. Playing both spells plays around a counterspell a bit better. We can probably afford to take another 2 from the sprite. I'm tempted to Healer's Hawk first. Into Locksmith. Would be surprised to see this getting countered, but you never know. Opponent's definitely considering it. Cover up, recycling cover up. Alright, so their hand must have quite a few counterspells if they're willing to spew a cover up on a Hawk. Doesn't bode well for this Luminous Bonds. They've been missing quite a few land drops themselves, so their hand is all spells. Puts a Centipede in the graveyard. Alright, Dispersal, bouncing Bodyguard. So what do we discard? It's gonna take a while before we can start attacking with the Bodyguard again. Next turn our play is gonna be, depending on whether we draw land, Luminous Bonds or Command Storm. Color, I'm imagining, is gonna be reasonable in this matchup. So then the question is, do we prefer Blade Instructor or Bodyguard? But if they have more removal, then Bodyguard could be stranded by itself. So I think we ditch Bodyguard. We did draw a land. We could play it a little bit risky here and just jam Sergeant attack, fall down to 1. But then if they have a counterspell for Luminous Bonds, we're in trouble. So either way, we're in a pretty tough position. Could definitely be worth it to Sergeant just to apply pressure so that we have something going once we do answer the sprite. But let's say our opponent plays another flyer next turn, then we have no breathing room at all. Whereas if we Luminous Bonds now, they play a flyer, we can still Command a Storm, and we're alive. So I think I'm gonna Luminous Bonds. But still play the land so we can maybe double spell in the future. A Wishcoin Crab, we can color. If we color the culprit now, we get to attack with a Locksmith if it works out. If they have Disdainful Stroke, we might be better off casting color in their upkeep, but then again we run into Devious Cover-Up and Sinister Sabotage. Could also just play a Ladef Guardian, or let's say Blade Instructor into Ladef Guardian, instead of just killing the crab. Maybe that's better, since Guardian blocks crab anyway. Even if they kill it, we are still at 3, so we're not dead to the crab attack. And if they have Disdainful Stroke, sure they get to counter Guardian, but they can't counter Blade Instructor and we're on the board. So I think I like that the most here. Alright. No Disdainful Stroke. We're on the board, so now if we kill the crab, we get some good attacks. We'll see. And Notion Rain works for me. Second Swamp. 4 mana left. And they're gonna capture Sphere Guardian. And beat down with the crab. Ooh, Frenzy. So yeah, we have to probably deal with this crab. Do we Command a Storm or do we color the culprits? Probably color the culprit since Command's more flexible, the mana doesn't matter too much. And we'll do this now to play around a counterspell. Hit for 6. So despite our pretty horrible start, we might still be able to turn this one around. Ooh, Ritual of Soot. Yeah, that's gonna reset the board. I think we just Sergeant attack before we play Frenzy. And do we keep land in hand? We want to play the land. For Frenzy, we want to keep land in hand to play around discard. I'm tempted to play it here. Alright, maybe they're flooding out a bit now. Deadly Visit Sergeants. Playing Frenzy, of course, is a little risky when we're at 1 life, since we're unable to use Command Storm on one of their creatures. Haha. Having to Command Storm a Muse Drake is not how I was really picturing things. But if we play Frenzy, I don't think we have many answers for 2 mana. We would have to go like land into Luminous Bonds, which seems pretty unlikely. So yeah, this is pretty ugly. Gotta do what we've gotta do. Don't want him to play any more creatures here. Alright, scout into Frenzy. If they have a counterspell, we're just dead here. Looks like they might have found a Devious Cover-Up. Yeah, this is rough. If they have a counterspell for Frenzy, then we're just top decking next turn. But if we don't play it, we're chum blocking the Shade anyway. So just gotta play the Frenzy here, and then they'll probably counter it. Or they might just have removal and kill us next turn anyway. We have to chum the Shade and then hope to top deck like Luminous Bonds. If we play the land first, then they have perfect information. But we might want the extra land if by some miracle the Frenzy resolves. Yeah, looks like a cover-up. Opponent's looking at their graveyard. Well, that's disappointing. We still didn't get a chance to play with Frenzy after all these games. So yeah, I think our only out is something like a Luminous Bonds off the top, if we get to survive, that is. Artful Takedown will kill us. Alright, GG's. Well, we do have to remember we were stuck on only red mana for the greater part of this game. So it was kind of surprising that we got this far. Alright, this sounds a little bit on the slow side with no 2 or 3 drop in sight, but we have both colors of mana for once. And a reasonably powerful hand once we do draw 1 or 2 lands, so let's keep and hope. Hopefully draw into a 2 drop, into a 3 drop, into a land. That's the ideal curve we're hoping for. Alright, well at least we've got land 4 lined up. Opponent's double mountain recruit, so looking like a Boros Mirror. Alright, Hawk shows up a little bit late to the party, but could still be a valuable addition. So we'll attack and then play Patrol. Definitely want to cast our white spells since we're stuck on single white, so that if we do draw a 5th land that's not a plains, we can still go Hawk plus Boar. Opponent's got their own Patrol, Luminous Bonds to draw. So if we play Boar, targeting Patrol, we can Mentor onto the Locksmith. And then we have good attacks with all our creatures. That sounds pretty good. And then we can save the Luminous Bonds for later. Might see them trade off the recruits. Land gives us a potential Barging Sergeant. Plains gives us Hawk plus Luminous Bonds. Definitely want to get rid of Patrol now that they've got a bunch of life linkers that they can mentor onto. And looks like they're maybe convoking something, a Death Guardian. Yeah, if they didn't have 2 cards left in hand, I would be more into the Maniacal Rage play. But if they have their own Luminous Bonds, this is kind of bad. So I think I'm leaning just Luminous Bonds. Attack for 2. Alright, Unicorn's a good one too. Another Convoke card. Another Ledev Guardian. Well, those Ledev Guardians with the Unicorn could do some damage. Like, we definitely want to have a bunch of blockers out to just block the Unicorn, make sure that dies, so they can't keep attacking with Unicorn and a bunch of creatures. So I think there's also some merit to just playing Sergeant on defense, just attack with Patrol, play Hawk, and then next turn we can Maniacal Rage to see if we can maybe make some good Mentor plays, or we could Rage the Hawk to gain some life back, we'll see. But I think I like Sergeant on defense, just to make sure we have multiple good blockers on the Unicorn. So we'll send. And then hope they don't have any combat tricks or any other shenanigans here. Yeah, we'll see. This Maniacal Rage can do a lot of different things, can even use it on a potential flare from the opponent to prevent it from blocking, can put it on Patrol so we can get some steady Mentor triggers. Or if we want to gain life right away with the Hawk, that's also a potential play we can make. That's why I kind of liked keeping the Maniacal Rage until one of our last cards, so we have more flexibility on where we want to put it and we don't get blown out by an early Luminous Bonds as much. Yeah, the Patrol does a good job of blocking, so there's some downside to putting the Maniacal Rage there. How do we block if they attack with everyone? That's another question. Are they gonna swing out Conclave Tribunal, all the Convoke cards, get rid of Patrol? Alright. And now what? Attack with everyone. Do we have lethal if we take it and attack back? We've got 9, plus 5 is 14, so we could take it. And then we've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They gain 2, so we're 1 point short of lethal, I think. 7, 8, 9 for Mentor. 10, 11, but they gain 2. So we don't have lethal on the crackback. And we don't have many haste creatures or pump spells that we can hope to draw. So I think we gotta make the trades here. And I think this seems good. Alright, so we're down to 9. We could save the Maniacal Rage to put on the Blade Instructor. Don't think that's necessarily amazing. I think we're fine to just Maniacal Rage the Hawk and then have Boar and Blade Instructor back. Blade Instructor's not going to be able to attack into the Guardians anytime soon. Yeah, I think it's time for Angry Birds. If we save the Rage for the Blade Instructor, we have a 5-3. Can attack once, Mentor onto the Hawk once. I think it's just better to Rage right now. Alright, this could go either way. It's a top deck war pretty much. I think we're pretty even right now in terms of board presence. Our Hawk is definitely dominating the board, but it just takes one removal spell to get rid of it. Banneret's a scary card. Once that starts mentoring onto their Legionnaire, they have a blocker for Hawk, or onto their lifelink token they can try and race. So that was definitely a good one. If only our deck had something like a Cosmotronic Wave, we could attack for lethal next turn. But sadly we don't. This would be a good time for Experimental Frenzy. Still have a Luminous Bonds, 2 Command Storms in our deck as removal, just a strike. So got some removal in there still. Expect to just see an attack with a Legionnaire. That was an excellent top deck. Alright, so we can hit them for 5 in the air. Also could attack with Blade Instructor just to pump or Legionnaire. I don't think that's quite worth it here. So we hit them for 5 down to 4. Opponent can gain 2 life at the very most next turn, up to 6. But then Blade Instructor could make our attack back lethal. Just play a Legionnaire attack with the flyers. So we don't want to trade away the Instructor if we can help it. Boar's probably going to go in front of the Banneret here, if they make an all-out attack. Alright, so pretty conservative attack. So they can pump Bannerets twice. Right now their plan is to just trade Legionnaires and then Hawk still kills them in 2 turns, or we could just Mentor with the Instructor and then the Legionnaire's chump blocking. So if we put Boar in front of Banneret, we kind of force the issue on the pump on the Bannerets. Seems okay. Alright, what's their last card? Hunted Witness. Alright, Justice Strike just does it. Well, we got some pretty fortunate draws near the end here. But even without Justice Strike, they would have been in chump block mode. So, well, we have yet to draw our Frenzy, or well, I shouldn't say draw our Frenzy, but resolve our Experimental Frenzy. We're 7 games in so far, so hopefully the next one's the one. Alright, well, this is not exactly the hand we envisioned. Just a bunch of removal, don't have double red for Direct Current, so we just have a Justice Strike and a Luminous Bonds. This is the type of hand that would be great if we can top it off with Experimental Frenzy, but we have no pressure whatsoever. If we do find a threat, we can back it up with a lot of removal. If we never find a threat, we're gonna drag into the late game, where we might not be favored. I don't think we can mulligan this, since we have lands and spells, both colors, but yeah, it's definitely a hand that might not get there. So cards we're most hoping to draw: Experimental Frenzy, Sky Knight Legionnaire. Looks like we've got another Boros Mirror here. Don't think we quite want to Justice Strike the Hawk, since we've got Patrol coming up. Hopefully they put a Maniacal Rage on it and we get a nice 2-for-1. Patrol was definitely a good draw. Alright, opponent was kind of considering it, maybe going for the Maniacal Rage, decides not to. So what's likely gonna happen is we'll play the Patrol. If they don't have Luminous Bonds, then they'll Maniacal Rage the Hawk so they can attack past it, and then we can Justice Strike. Ooh. Boros Challenger will definitely just Luminous Bonds here. Do have access to double red for Direct Current now, which is nice. But yeah, Challenger has to be answered here, since that's gonna Mentor onto the Hawk, and eventually they can just bump it, so answering it now is fine, since even late in the game the Challenger is still a threat. Well, there's a Frenzy, so we might get our Frenzy game at long last. And we're faced with an interesting decision here. Probably just gonna Patrol, and then next turn we can, if we draw Mountain, Current plus Justice Strike. I guess we can't quite do it unless we draw Mountain. But let's say they don't have an answer for Patrol, we hold off the Hawk. Yeah, we could definitely consider Justice Striking the Bodyguard to kind of play it safe. But then we don't have an answer to the Maniacal Rage on Healer's Hawk. Could also Direct Current to Healer's Hawk. I guess that would have been reasonable too. Plays around removal on the Patrol and makes use of our double red, which is kind of tied up. And then the Bodyguard can't attack unless they have a hasty Legionnaire. So I guess in hindsight maybe Current Hawk would have been better. Alright, looks like they just have a combat trick. I don't love blocking with Patrol when we have Justice Strike as an instant speed way to break up a combat trick from our opponent. But the awkward thing here is that if we let our opponent attack again next turn, they get to Mentor once again on the Hawk, and then it'll be big enough to get past the Patrol anyway without a trick. So at the end of the day I think I'll block, they'll probably use like a Sure Strike, and then next turn we get to Direct Current to Hawk, Bodyguard can't attack and we buy ourselves a bit of time, which seems good enough. And they're unlikely to add too many threats to the board if they have to use a trick here. If they have a 1-mana trick, plus another creature, then things get a bit messy. And turns out to be Integrity Intervention. That card was going to be good against us no matter what, even at 4 mana, so... Ooh, Dawn of Hope. That one we don't want to see, since that gives them late game inevitability. Opponent is stuck on 3, so they're pretty far from leveraging the Dawn of Hope, but Healer's Hawk can of course gain life and draw cards. So I think we're just gonna Current to Hawk, like we maybe should have last turn. And then hopefully we can play this Frenzy soon. Jumpstart cards also play well with Frenzy, since we can still cast them out of the graveyard, discarding a useless card in our hand that's stuck because of Frenzy. Rock Charger is a good one. So we could go Justice Strike Bodyguard and then play Frenzy. Or we could get our own Bodyguard down first, so we have a nice body once we do find more creatures. And then probably Justice Strike the Bodyguard before they get a chance to attack and mentor. Getting the Frenzy down early seems nice. Getting the Bodyguard in play might be better. And then do we Justice Strike Bodyguard right now, or do we wait? Don't think we really get punished by waiting, since most tricks just pump power instead of toughness. We get rewarded if they play some sort of aura on one of their creatures, for example. Or if they play a haste creature, we can reevaluate what we want to kill. So I think there's some upside to waiting. And I don't think there's too many cards that punish us for waiting, so we might as well. But we definitely want to Justice Strike before they get a chance to attack, which is right now. Alright, and then next turn it's Frenzy time. Still have a current we can jumpstart. But the Donophobe definitely gives me some worries. Hunted Witness is fine. And that's it. We can even Scout and then Frenzy. A land of the top would be pretty nice, but just hoping to string together some action now. Alright, Healer's Hawk is going to be stuck in our hand, sadly. But that means we have some food for the Direct Current. Alright, Frenzy versus Donophobe. Let's see who comes out on top. Can't say for sure. I think it boils down to our next 2-3 turns. If we can get a ton of stuff in play, we might be able to overwhelm the Donophobe. But if we kind of get some bricks, then eventually the Donophobe is going to start taking over. Opponent hits us for 2. Alright, that's not a great hit. We can attack and then give the Scout flying. Direct Current doesn't have any great targets. Do we want to Scout on defense? Doesn't block all that well. Let's get in there. Alright, let's pass a turn. That's a good one, but that one we can Direct Current. So it's not too bad. So we're taking 5. Alright. Need some good draws here. Step 1. Alright, hopefully no double land. If we can kill the Rock Charger, then things aren't so bad. Alright, there we go. Can Direct Current Rock Charger, we can even do it at instant speed for what it's worth. Could still cast a Direct Current on Blade Instructor and then next turn, before taking our draw step, cast a Commander Storm at instant speed on Rock Charger. But if, let's say, our opponent has a combat trick and attacks us with Pack Beast and Rock Charger and casts a Sure Strike, we're just dead. We're gonna pass the turn and then Commander Storm the Rock Charger before they get a chance to attack with it. Again, there's a chance our opponent plays a Maniacal Rage on their Rock Charger, hoping to go for a bigger attack, and we get to punish them. But I do want to kill it before it actually attacks, since I don't want any flying creatures. And 5 damage should play around most bump spells. There's a Maniacal Rage waiting. So that's going to be our draw step. If, let's say, we didn't draw the Healer's Hawk yet, there was an extra argument for playing the Commander Storm main phase in case we could also play the Healer's Hawk. But since we already played land for the turn, and we had Healer's Hawk in hand and no other 1-drops we could hit, I think it made sense to play it the way we did. Opponent does swing out. We've got a good block on the Witness, and then we could trade Blade Instructor for Pack Beasts, Keep current to answer their Blade Instructor. If they use a trick, that's fine. And keep the potential flying creature. Seems okay. I suspect they have something like a Sure Strike from the few pauses we've seen. So they might kill the bodyguard, but then they don't get the lifelinker for the Dawnophobe. I guess they can make a lifelinker anyway. And we're not that to Sure Strike on Blade Instructor. Alright, Sure Strike the Pack Beast instead. Take 3 down to 4, they get a token, they get to make another token. We Direct Current Instructor, and we're still somewhat stable. Let's play Instructor. Alright, that's a good one too. So we can still play Swarm Companions and then play Direct Currents. And we'll discard the planes. Kill Blade Instructor. Do we have any attacks now that we found some action? So I think we'll stay back for now, and then next turn we can start being more aggressive, mentoring onto our life linkers to gain some life back. For now we have reasonable blocks on their tokens. 16 cards remaining. And those 16 cards include a decent amount of removal spells still. So we can also hope to answer the Pack Beast that way. It's important that we keep some high toughness creatures to block the soldier tokens. So I'm not too eager to trade away Scout and Bodyguard. Opponent may be looking to draw some cards. Definitely a pretty interesting game, and I'm glad we get to see Frenzy in action, since it's definitely an interesting mechanic. Alright, just the 1 token attacking, so they're maybe planning to draw a card and then make another token. So blocking like this makes sense to me. Could also double block with a bodyguard. Does that make sense? I guess we might as well. Alright. Could also block with our tokens just to gain the life, but then we're throwing away a token if they don't have anything. And double blocking means that if, let's say, they had a Righteous Blow, we still kill the token. Yeah, Inescapable Blaze kills us on the spot. Luminous Bonds is a good one. Legionnaire is a good one. Alright, so we're starting to hit that critical mass of action that we're looking for. Command Storm, good insurance. So what happens if we attack with everyone? Mentor twice onto lifelinkers. They get to make another lifelinker, potentially. They're probably just double blocking or a blocking instructor and keeping a token. Seems good to me. Or we could command a storm to break up any potential blocks they have. And we should be gaining a decent chunk of life. So I think I'm fine attacking with everyone, not giving this flying, since I want to keep up Command Storm. Alright. Mentor. I think we make 2 2/2s here, putting a stop on upkeep in case we need to Command Storm. But I imagine we'll do it end of turn if we have to. Or we could just draw it and then keep it in hand for later when we sack Frenzy. If they go for the double block on Scout, I'll happily kill one of the tokens. But I imagine they'll block Instructor and then just make a token end of turn. So that's fine. Could Command Storm the token just to keep the Blade Instructor. It's not unreasonable, since Blade Instructor is pretty good. But keeping Command Storm for potentially bigger, more threatening creatures is also a consideration. Since the Blade Instructor is going to die to a token at some point anyway, it's just that we get one more Mentor trigger out of it by killing the token here. And if they draw a card here with the Dawnophobe, they don't get to make a token end of turn, so I think that's fine. I'll just let damage happen. If they had 6 mana, it would be a different story. Alright, their opponent is drawing. So maybe they have a card they're looking for here. That's fine. Still have Command Storm at instant speed. And our opponent doesn't have any board presence at the moment. We do have to kill our opponent quickly here, since eventually Unofficial is going to take over. And we will run out of cards in our deck. But it's looking promising. Witness, that's fine. And 1 card left. So right now I'm leaning towards just not casting the Commander Storm, keeping it in hand. So I think we'll just take our draw step. Killing Witness doesn't really accomplish all that much. Boar's a good one. So can we go for lethal? Boar pumping either Scout or Legionnaire. It's probably the place to start. Is there a reason to pump one over the other? Probably just pumping Legionnaire, since we might not have the mana to give Scout flying. Well, we're definitely seeing the power of Experimental Frenzy this game, completely overwhelming the opponent in cards. That's a good one. Haven't seen this card being played yet in this run. We'll have Guardian. So we can play Guardian and then still give our Scout flying. 7 cards remaining. So we're reaching the point where we're probably gonna sack the Frenzy, so we don't deck ourselves. Attack all. Mantra onto a lifelinker. And give Scout flying. Alright, so they can block. Take 6, 7, 8, 9. Game 1, so they're not dead, but pretty close. Yeah, I guess we could have considered, instead of playing Stalwarts and Guardian, we could have sacked a Frenzy and then played Rage on the Hunted Witness, prevent it from blocking. But you never know, they have a card left in hand. I would rather just get my value and then sack Frenzy next turn. Now that we gained life, we're not dead to an inescapable Blaze. I'll play around Deafening Clarion, so we're not blocking with the Guardian, instead blocking with Stalwart seems fine. They don't even gain the life, so they don't get to draw with Dawn of Hope because of First Strike. Deafening Clarion is definitely the card we could lose to here. But looks like they don't have it. Sweet. So Frenzy versus Dawn of Hope. Frenzy ends up winning. Definitely had a couple very great turns with the Frenzy in play. And 6 and 2. Never expected to get this far with our Boros deck. But it's definitely performing. And we're going first with a reasonable hand, kind of slow. But I don't think we want a mulligan. Hoping to draw 2-drop so we can make use of the Boars +2/+0. We'll see how this plays out. Up against Golgari, that's a first here. Justice Strike's gonna be reasonable too. Alright, did not draw the creatures we were hoping for, so the Boars are gonna be a little underwhelming. Gorgon. We could Justice Strike. There's probably scarier targets that we need to Justice Strike here. I think I'll be patient. The Gorgon we can also kill with Direct Current, so that's also something to keep in mind. I'll take 2. Also, when the Golgari deck has a bunch of undergrowth creatures like Rhizome Lurcher, we don't really want to start killing the Golgari creatures as soon as we can. That way to shrink or bore. Fair enough. Patrol's a decent draw, so we'll get in for 1. And eventually we can maybe start growing the boar with the Mentor again. So we might see the boar as a 3/3 once again at some point. Alright, looks like Patrol's dead. Price of Fame's a good removal spell, so that's unfortunate. Our hasty Minotaur off the top would be probably our best draw. More removal instead, so that's not exactly where we want to be. Could of course Maniacal Rage the boar, so we can hit for 3. Yeah, I'm not too hyped about casting this Maniacal Rage, but I do want to start dealing some damage. Keep up Justice Strike. I'll happily take 2 from Gorgon again. Charnel Troll, interesting. So are they planning to discard a bunch of creatures to it? I guess so. It is annoying that it just blocks the boar. So there's a lot of things we can do here. I think I'm into just waiting. And then our opponent's going to be forced to discard a creature just to keep the troll alive, since they don't have any food in the graveyard. And then we can still Justice Strike to kill it, even if they discard a second creature. So I think I'm saying go. We miss out on a bit of damage on the boar, but it's all in the name of value. So our opponent's gonna feed the troll, discarding Rhizome Lurcher. Alright, so we could Command the Storm the troll right now, instead of Justice Striking. That could be reasonable too. Don't really want to take 5. Or we could let them untap, but then if we let them untap, there's a risk that they discard another card and then we're forced to Justice Strike instead of Command the Storm. There is definitely upside to making them exile the Lurcher, so they don't have the Lurcher in the graveyard for Undergrowth. I think we just kill the troll right now, and then keep the Justice Strike, which is a bit more flexible. Alright, Molder Hulk. They do get to play their Molder Hulk now, but at least we can still Justice Strike or Luminous Bonds that. Alright, so which one do we want to use here? I guess Luminous Bonds is fine. Keep Justice Strike, and then I don't think we need to kill the Gorgon quite yet. And now I think I keep land in hand. Can play the land next turn, so we can use both removal spells if we have to. But at the moment we're still racing 2 damage for 3 damage. We're the Boros deck, so presumably we're ahead there. Yeah, Sever Strands would be annoying. It's a Prey Upon instead. So we can Justice Strike to keep our boar. I guess that's worth it. So just a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. Oof, Gruesome Menagerie. Gets back Troll. So yeah, if we wanted them to exile a card, so their future Undergrowth creatures are smaller, we could wait until their upkeep. So we don't risk them drawing a creature and this becoming a 6/6, but then we miss out on 3 damage. So that doesn't seem worth it to me. And we'll play the land in case of Experimental Frenzy. Still want to keep 1 land in hand in case of Direct Current's Jumpstart. Alright, so close game. And there's a Current, perfect. And all the way back on turn 3 when they played Gorgon, we made the argument that Current is a nice answer to it and we shouldn't use Command the Storm, Justice Strike or Luminous Bonds on it, and it's paying off now. Attack for 3. Opponent down to 7. And we still have a Direct Current at the ready here. Drawing any haste creatures would be amazing. Poisoner we can kill. Looks like they've got another one here, maybe a fight spell. Alright, Prey Upon 2-for-1s themselves, but our opponent was feeling the pressure, so they decided to pull the trigger anyway. Makes sense. And sadly we didn't draw the haste creature to apply the pressure, but I'll still play the Mountain in case of Experimental Frenzy. Still have discard fodder for Current. So alright, it's a top deck war, could go either way. Life totals are pretty equal. Gotta kill the Centipede before they draw another creature. Alright, so we're even. I guess I should play my land now since we don't have any Jumpstart left. And with Experimental Frenzy you never know how many lands you'll need. Ooh, wow. Well, Golgari Raiders has never looked this good. 6/6 haste and a land off the top. Well, that's a sad way to end it. Losing a top deck war always feels bad, especially when we draw a bunch of lands, but nonetheless we had some sweet games, and I think I was pretty happy with our line of play this game. Just didn't quite work out. So, GG's opponents. So ended our run at 6-3, still definitely exceeded my expectations. We got our sweet Experimental Frenzy game out of it, so can't really complain. And I think we get most of our gems back. Indeed, we get 2,000 gems back for 6 wins, so didn't lose too much value here. Got some packs, get some gems from the duplicates we opened, and thanks so much for the 100 bits there. A double Pope. So I want to thank everyone for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.
I also want to thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/LegenVD.